So if we were standing in your physical shoes, all of you, and we were wanting to proceed through the next few days in a most meaningful way on the heels of what you've been hearing here, we would play games like, wouldn't it be nice if? We would play games like, well, the thing I love about this is. In other words, we would ramp up our list of positive aspects and our rampages of appreciation. As Esther looked out of the window of her sleeping suite just now and saw many of you out in the courtyards visiting and sitting and sunning, she said, look at them, the little baskers. And Jerry says you have to be careful who you say that to. You might be misunderstood. But she loved that so many of you were deliberately looking for a moment in time where you could find a reason to feel good. And that is the way we would spend our life. That is the most valuable use of time. So then you say, but I have to go to work. I can't just sit around and bask all day. And we say, then at work, we would look for positive aspects. We would look for reasons to praise. We would look for things to feel good about. We would count our blessings at every turn. We would just make that be such a powerful part. That would be the top thing on our to-do list. Today, no matter where I'm going, no matter what I'm doing, no matter who I'm doing it with, it is my dominant intent to look for things that I'm wanting to see. And before you know it, you will have trained yourself. You will have relearned that natural feeling of well-being. And no wrongdoing, no incompletion can ever come as a result of that. Life is really good, and you are physically focused creators in what we see to be the best environment of creation that has ever existed. The leading edge is where it all is. It's where all of the power is. And so, as your experience gives birth in you to a desire that is new or maybe one you are reliving, and it feels good to you while you are contemplating it, then life is breathing through you, Source is breathing through you, and it is the optimum creative experience. See yourself as the directors of the energy that creates worlds. And see the energy as understanding you and caressing you and gently opening before you the next wonderful experience. And trust that that energy that is your legacy and amplifies your worthiness. It would not be there otherwise. And it is always there. And then begin practicing your conscious awareness that you can pinch it off or let it flow. Pinch it off or let it flow. Find someone in your mind who has been big in your experience and pick on them in your mind. Make 5 or 10 statements of criticism about them and feel life diminishing. Feel the empty feeling that ensues. And then take the same person and make an equal number of statements of appreciation and feel your resources, your source return. And then say to yourself, that is the issue of worthiness? In other words, it's all been my doing. I've been the keeper of that gate all along. It hasn't been about actions, past or present. It hasn't been about anyone else's evaluation. It's only been about what I'm doing with my valve right now. So here you are, extensions of source energy. And here is this juncture called now, where you can make a decision right now to focus upon something that allows the energy to flow, or you can make a decision to focus right now on something that doesn't allow the energy to flow. So you've got your hand on the valve right now, and we say, doesn't it make the decisions easily? In other words, nothing's more important than I feel good. Why would I ever use anything as a subject in my now to not feel good? Why would I focus upon all the things that I have to do that I don't have done when it makes me feel that overwhelming feeling? Why would I think about all the things that I did in the past that if I knew then what I knew now, I would have done differently, that feels me full of regret? Why would I amplify that regret right now? Why would I look for things that make me feel bad? And why, when I discover one that I didn't know I was even looking for that made me feel bad, why would I stay there and keep amplifying it? And we say, it's because Right now, it feels like the path of least resistance. You got to practice something else and make that the path of least resistance. And it is our promise to you that as you remember or relearn or rediscover this connection to Source on a consistent basis, the path of least resistance will come fully within you to the point that it will be hard for you to have a negative thought. It will be hard for you to not trust someone. It will feel really odd for you to feel uncomfortable about something. You'll get so used to the world honoring you and the seas parting for you and doors opening for you and things going the way that you just thought that they would go. You'll find yourself saying things like, well, I knew that that would be all right. Well, I knew that would be all right. Well, I knew that would be all right. Well, there's not ever a problem there. Everything's all right. You'll find yourself just moving forward, expressing your appreciation of where you are and your understanding that it's just supposed to get better and better and better. You'll find yourself turning on the television and tuning into something that is so far different than your vibration, and there would be nothing that would ever be interesting enough that it would captivate your attention and give you that knot in your stomach. In other words, you just find yourself immediately knowing that that's not going to get me there, that's not going to get me there, that's not going to get me there. In fact, you might turn that television off altogether. You might never buy another newspaper. You might not listen to the radio. You might not go to places that you are accustomed to going. In other words, you'll get so connected to source energy that you'll be like the bird that is flying from the impulse of that which is coming forth from within. People say, oh, how do those birds know to migrate? Were they born with little maps in their head? Do they have some sort of sonar? And we say, no, they're tuned in, tapped in, turned on. They've got this direct link to the broader view that has an aerial view of the energy grid. In other words, source energy knows that they are looking for well-being and gives them an in-the-moment impulse that will ultimately lead them to where they're wanting to be. And none of you are different from that. You have moment by moment, second by second guidance. Source energy is aware of you, knows everything that you've ever wanted, heard everything that you've ever said in relationship to what you wanted, understands fully every amended desire that you've ever held, and agrees totally that you are the deserving, worthy recipient of all of these things, and is knocking itself out in endless, never-ending ways, setting up circumstances and events to accommodate you on everything that you want, big or small, and is in every single moment of your experience opening doors, opening doors, opening doors, and is saying things to you constantly like, there it is, look over there. There it is, how about over here? There it is, look over there. What about that? There it is, there it is, there it is, there it is, there it is. How about this? How about that? Look over there. There it is, there it is. Your inner being and source is saying, we are adoring you. Here is the loving gesture that will get you to where you're wanting to go. Look over there, look over there, look over there, look at over there. Beloved, look over there. And then you say, well, I don't feel worthy. And we say, the universe revolves around you. The earth spins in its orbit. You are here in the perfect platform. Source energy is surrounding you. Your every desire or whim, big or small, is being answered. There could not be a better, more deserving experience.